Okay, welcome to Good Morning Bloodstock Live. I'm Martin Stevens and I'm here with Watership Down Studs General Manager Simon Marsh. And we're talking about a big year for the operation, not least because possibly the best horse you've ever bred, Too Darn Hot, has his first 2-year-old runners this year. I thought we might start off talking about how Watership Down Studs association with Too Darn Hot began. And that was with the purchase of the wonderful blue hen mare Durara back in 1994. I won't ask why you bought her because she had quite obvious credentials, I suppose, and she cost 470,000 Irish guineas, I think. But what were your memories of her that day? Because I gather she wasn't the most imposing physical.
No, it was an interesting, it was a very important day in all our lives, now. And Charlie Gordon Watson and I went over to Ireland, and she'd been spotted actually by Michael Youngs in the catalogue when we were at Keeneland, and we tried to buy a couple of mares at Keeneland and we hadn't got them. And Michael said to me, "There's a mare in Ireland we should really concentrate on." So we actually got her vetted before the sale and went and saw the yearling. That she had a saddle as well as yearling, which ultimately was a Group 1 winner. And so we arrived at the sales and we went and looked at her, and she was a pretty unimposing mare. She was probably 15.3, but very, very correct. Pretty head, beautiful head, lovely eye, good big ear. And then away we went. And Lloyd Webber was just fantastic, and he really, really backed our judgment, and we managed to buy her. And it wasn't easy, and she was extremely expensive in her time. Then she went back to the stud, and she hadn't even. I don't think she produced a Group winner at that stage. So she produced all her four Group 1 winners after we bought her.
Yeah, I should say the reason she was an obvious purchase was because she was a Prix Vermeil winner from the Aga Khan studs, and she was a half sister to Darshan by Topville. So she ticked all the boxes, just apart from not looking like a film star on that particular day.
Yeah, I would just say she did. I mean, she was a very good-looking mare.
Yeah.
She was exactly what you want to see in a mare. She was correct. She had a great way of going, good walk on her, lovely head and eye, plenty roomy enough to carry a foal. Yeah. She'd obviously had some very nice foals already because I think she was 11 or 12 when we bought her. And her yearling by saddle as well, as I say, who we went to see before we bought the mare, was extremely nice. So we knew she could produce a good foal. But, to have that kind of racecourse performance in the mare when we bought her, and her pedigree with Darshan, being a half sister to Darshan, was incredibly important, and has proved the case.
Well, yeah, because she came back to Watership Down Stud, which should have said there was not long set up by you for Andrew and Madeline Lloyd Webber, and she just became the most amazing foundation mare. Was it 4 Group 1 winners and sales toppers and record priced yearlings? Yeah,
but she had a very interesting history because we produced. She was in Shirley Heights when we bought her, and we sold that colt, and then she had a Sadler's Wells, which made 3.4 million. Was very good horse, and he was a Group 1 winner too in Hong Kong, and then we couldn't get her in foal, and she was 4 years not in foal, and I was absolutely tearing my hair out. We didn't have any fillies out of the mare. So we tried everything. And at the end of the day, I got hold of Twink Allen at the Animal Health Trust. And he said he had a procedure that he'd actually done on non-thoroughbred mares, but never actually done it on a thoroughbred mare. And we could try it. And it might be a disaster, but it might work. And I said, well, look, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So we did it. And it involved putting a catheter in her flank to flush her fallopian tubes out. And he did it, and bang, she went straight in foal. And she had a filly that year called Evita by Selkirk, who's still with us, and she's produced 2 stakes winners and a stakes placed horse. And then we sent her to Singspiel, and she had Doremi, age 22. And then she went to Tiger Hill and probably had her best racehorse, which was Rewilding, who was obviously very sadly died, but he did the most incredible performance when he won the Prince of Wales.
Exactly.
And the Shima Classic, for that matter, which Doremi won too.
Yeah. And then Durara obviously passed away at quite a good age, about 10 years ago. Can you put into words what she means to Watership Down Stud in the development of the operation and for Andrew and Madeline's enjoyment of racing and just for keeping the show on the road?
Yeah, I mean, she encapsulates the whole thing. And I think if anybody sets out to build a stud or anything, to be able to get a mare like her is nigh on impossible. But to have any mare, any foundation mare that can produce and you can continually race the fillies out of and then bring them back into the stud. I mean, Meow Valley, for instance, have done a fantastic job doing that over the years. And it's a great formula, but I think any stud farm that's got one foundation mare is incredibly lucky. If you've got 2 or 3, I mean, it's very rare.
So what female descendants now do you have of Durara on the stud?
So we're quite a lot. We're very lucky. We've got a Vita, as I said, and she's got a filly called Touring Production who's just visiting Zarak this year, and then obviously we've got Doremi who's now in fold to she's in fold to Frankel, and then we've got her daughters. We've got Delectable You, we've got Somidar, we've got Lati Dar, and we've got Darmazel. And then we've got a 2-year-old Kingman filly, which is going to John Gosden. So we're very lucky. We've got 5 daughters so far, and the mare's back in fold to Frankel.
And you said that earlier you said that Durara family is going global a bit because is it Delectable You or has gone to America? Yeah,
Delectable You. Last year I went. Basically, they all went to Frankel, and then this year we've kind of spread it out a bit, and I've been intrigued by Gunrunner in America, and I think he's obviously an absolutely brilliant stallion, but he's done everything on the dirt, but his pedigree suggests there's no reason why he couldn't sire turf horses, and he's a wonderful outcross as well. So. I think he's a really, really interesting horse to breed to. So we've sent Delectable You out there. She's had a Frankel colt foal, her first foal, which is apparently a very good foal. I haven't seen it yet. And I just think it would be such fun if we could get a Gunrunner filly out of her and race it over here. It would be absolutely, and it would really be an outcross. It would be, be a wonderful filly or wonderful mare ultimately to breed from.
That would be something. And Lati Dar and Somidar have both had smash hits at the sales. Can you give us an update on those 2 mares?
Well, this is where breeding is difficult because Somidar, her foal died this year, and it was a Frankel filly, and sadly died in France. But she owes us absolutely nothing, and she's fine, the mare herself. And she's going to Sayuni. Mm-hmm. And Lati Dar, she, as you say, we sold a Sayuni filly out for the sales, but she's had a Frankel filly foal, but she had to have it by caesarean section, so she probably won't be bred this year.
Okay, so there. And I was just thinking there, I mean, it sounds like you're going to have about 4 or 5 daughters of Doremi to breed from. You haven't moved any of them on yet, but presumably you'll have to at some point in the future, because otherwise this family is going to grow exponentially on the stud, and you'll be overrun with Durara offspring and grandchildren, which is no bad thing. Do you think you'll find that hard, having to move one on at some point?
It'd be incredibly hard. I would doubt we'd ever move a daughter of Doremi herself on, but if there will probably be fillies that we will sell at the sales out of daughters, And as you know, otherwise there will be too many of them. And I also think it's really important to allow other breeders to have the blood, because they will do things far more intelligently than I will, and maybe breed the mares to different lines that we haven't tried.
Yeah. So going back then slightly, Dare Me, she was a fantastic filly, a homebred filly who you kept in training, and she went to Dubai and won the Grade 1 out there. And then she came back, and as we said, she produced all those lovely fillies. But the main thing this year, well, the big thing this year, is that a few years ago she produced Too Darn Hot by Dubai, who was kept by the Lloyd Webbers, which as a colt, which is an unusual move. What can you just remind us what happened there?
Well, we sell all our colts, and we do not. In fact, I think Too Darn Hot was probably the first colt we ever put in training. And what happened was that when he was about 3 weeks old, he was shipped up to Newmarket with the mare for the mare to be bred back to Dubai. And he got off the box at Peter Stanley's New England stud, and Peter just noticed that his hind fetlock was a little bit filled. So kind of because of what he was, he put him in the box and got the vet out, and they x-rayed it, and they found that he'd fractured his sesamoid, his hind sesamoid, literally through the midline, and which was a bit of a blow. And we were told, don't worry, he's a very young foal, it'll mend, not a problem, blah, blah, blah. And it just never did. And we got vets involved from all over the world, and anyway, everybody was extremely gloomy about it. And I eventually had to say to Andrew Madlin, look, we're going to have to go the long haul with this. We're not going to be able to race him. And I tried every way. I tried to sell this horse in every possible way I could, and it failed, obviously, every single vet. And ultimately, we had to put him into training. And he went to Malcolm Bastard's, where he was broken. And very quickly, Malcolm said to me, this is something special. And and the rest is history. I mean, it was just extraordinary. And it was a complete fluke that we had him in training. And it is one of those stories of total luck.
Yeah. Well, it really did work out well, because he had that outstanding Champion 2-year-old season when he beat everything. Came back at 3, and it took him a few races to click into gear. But then when he did, he would sort of return to that brilliance.
Yeah, I mean, it was very annoying because he was going fantastically in the spring, and he was due to run in the Greenham, and then in the Guineas, and he popped a splint at a crucial time, and so he missed those two. He missed the Greenham, and I think it kind of really messed everything up at the beginning part of the season. And we then ran him in the Dante, which was, in hindsight, a bad mistake, and I take full responsibility for that. And we just didn't know whether he might be a Derby horse or not, and his pedigree was screaming the Derby at you, and yet he was just an out and out miler. I mean, he probably could have won the July Cup. He was very, very, very fast.
Yeah, that must have been a surprise when coming from Dare Me and Durara, when there is so much stamina in that family.
Yeah, I mean, he's an outlier. It's just extraordinary. And so there are so many parts of his story that I just, I don't, it kind of don't make sense. Yes. But, Dubai was a miler. Yeah. And there is speed in Durara's pedigree. So I suppose it's obviously
sometimes
surprising,
happens,
and it's happened. Yeah. And we were very lucky.
So Too Darn Hot's being very well supported at stud, and I believe you have a very nice filly by him to race this year. Yeah,
we've got a nice filly which we bought at the sales. It's been broken. She's at Malcolm's, and she's going to go to John Gosden's. But we bought a few mares specifically to send to the horse at the beginning of his career. One of which was a mare called Frankel Light. A Frankel mare out of Mambo Light, and it goes back to one of the Niarchos' best families. We paid a lot of money for in Deauville, and her first foal's a winner, and her second foal we sold at the sales, and he's called Bjorn Ironside. Thady Gosden actually mentioned him the other day on Luck on Sunday, and I've spoken to Malcolm about him, and I think he could be pretty special.
And you must have seen lots of Too Darn Hot debut 2-year-olds. What's your general impression of him?
Well, anybody looking at this will say I'm completely biased, but at the end of the day, all the indications are from people that they really like these horses, and they're very willing, and they all kind of want to, when they get up to they want to get up to the top of the gallop, and when they get up to the top of the gallop, they want to do it again. And that was very much like him. He always wanted to please all the time. And you know, and the great thing is they are with really good trainers. I think John's got about 12. I think Charlie Appleby's got 8 or 10. Andrew Balding's got 8. You know, there's the really, really good trainers have got them and seem to be very happy with them.
And how do you see his freshman season playing out? I mean, do you think it's at all possible that they'll be precocious enough for him to do a new approach and get multiple Royal Ascot winners, or do you think they might need the summer more to come out and there'll be more back-end maiden winners, or do you think he can do all of those?
I think they'll take more time than people think. I think, you know, he came out in the very beginning of August, and he won 4 races very quickly and established himself as champion 2-year-old. And I think we'll probably see them at their best July, August, September of the 2-year-olds. But I think he's interesting because, you know, the family itself are late developers. Dare Me, Larchie Dar, Semidar, they were all late developing fillies. So, you know, like Jabawi himself, I mean, they're not all precocious 2-year-olds by any means, but he can get a 2-year-old, and he can get a sprinter, and he can get a miler, and he can get a stayer. And I think that Too Darn Hot will be able to tick those boxes. I think there's no reason why he won't get 2-year-olds. But on the other hand, I think there's also him being a miler. I don't think there's any reason why he's not going to get 10 and 12 furlong horses as well.
Yeah. And finally on Too Darn Hot, Watership Down Stud has gone global again because you've become involved in some of Too Darn Hot's first Southern Hemisphere yearlings as well. Yeah,
well, it's incredible. He's been so well supported here. He's even this year he will cover 160 mares. So he's covered 160 mares each of his first 4 seasons in the Northern Hemisphere, and he's been in Australia for 3 seasons, and we limit his book to 130 mares in Australia, and he's covered a full book of mares in all 3 of his years down there. And we decided we would have a few mares down there and support him, which we have. And we bought a couple of yearlings by him. We bought a very nice filly at the Magic Millions. And we bought a really nice colt, actually, at the recent Easter sales too.
That's going to Gay Waterhouse.
The filly's going to Gay Waterhouse, and the colt's going to the Hazes.
Perfect. And of course, it's not all about, as great as they are, Too Darn Hot and Dare Me and Durara, it's not all about them at Watership Down Stud. You have some wonderful other mares as well. One that lots of people watching will probably remember is the Fugue, who won a good few races, especially memorably the Irish Champion Stakes.
Yeah.
What's she up to now?
Yeah, I mean, she was a phenomenal racehorse. I mean, when she won the Prince of Wales, I don't think she got the real credit for it because she beat Trev that day, and everybody was kind of wondering why Trev hadn't won. But she beat the track record that day, and I don't think it'll ever get beaten. I mean, she won it so well that race; it was quite extraordinary. So she was a very, very, very brilliant racehorse. She hasn't quite emulated that yet as a broodmare, but you know, it's relatively early days, and she's got a nice yearling. And she's got a good foal. She's visiting Baaid this year, so perfect. Yeah, so we've got good hope for her.
You also own Gale Force, the dam of Hurricane Lane.
Yeah, well, Gale Force, she's a really beautiful mare, and we were extremely lucky to buy her. We bought her as one of the mares specifically to go to Too Darn Hot. And she got in foal 2 years running to Too Darn Hot, and she lost both foals. So she actually hasn't got a Too Darn Hot foal. But she's just had a Frankel colt, full brother to Hurricane Lane, which is extremely exciting. And I know the family very well because my brother-in-law owns Handa, who's the dam of Gale Force.
Oh, yes.
And so, you know, it's very exciting that, you know, that whole family, I know the family very well. And then this year, or last year, we bought into Emily Upjohn, which again, she's from the same family. So,
another really interesting mare you bought, maybe about a decade ago, was Clabber de Zangeray, the dam of about 3 individual Italian Classic winners, a really extraordinary producer.
Yeah, she's a wonderful mare. She produced 3 Group 1 winners, which is very, very rare. She's been a wonderful mare to have. And she had a Lope Fernandez filly foal last night. She's 24 years old. It was 64 kilos, the most magnificent filly. So we're very, very excited. She's got a Massar filly yearling, and she's now going to go into an extremely well-deserved retirement.
And are there any other mares at Watership Down that are particularly notable, or anything that's produced a real knockout foal this year?
Well, there is one mare, actually. There's a mare we own in partnership with the Farishes called Royal Invention, who was a Group 2 winner.
Oh, very good, yeah. And she's in England or America?
She's in England. And she's got a Lope de Vega colt yearling, which we'd be very excited about. And she's in foal to No Never. But she was a Group 2 winner. She was very, very fast, like Exceeding Excel.
And I should say at this point, people maybe would have the impression that you have more mares at Watership Down Stud than you actually do, because you have all this success and we see the colours carried to victory so often. But you were telling me earlier that you don't actually have that many mares really on the farm.
No, we've tried to keep it pretty small and select. I have to say that, you know, the numbers are beginning to creep up with all these daughters of Daremi and her daughters. But we will try and keep it small. I mean, I would think we've probably got 15, 16 mares at the moment. And then we would also carry a few mares or fillies that we're going to sell in December. Okay. But we would never have more than half a dozen in training at any one time.
Yeah. And we mentioned in passing, a filly who's really something to look forward to this year is Emily Upjohn, who you bought into last year. She's got a big season ahead, hasn't she?
Well, we hope so. I mean, there was an idea she might have gone to Dubai, but John felt that she just hadn't come to herself in the winter, so we shelved that. And I believe the idea at the moment is to go to the coronation. But again, we'll just see how she's going. She's extremely exciting filly to become involved in. And we were very lucky that John Shack, who is the main owner of her, and his partners, Stuart Roden. But John has always had mares with us. And so we were extremely fortunate to be given the opportunity by John to become partners with him. And she's just a beautiful filly with a wonderful pedigree. So no, we're very excited about her.
Now, I did ask readers to send in a few questions, and people responded. The first one's quite an all-encompassing question. What's the secret of Watership Down Stud's success?
Probably quite a lot of luck, I would say. I think people is probably the most important part of it. And Terry Doherty, who's the stud manager there, has been, in fact, July this year is his 30th anniversary.
Really?
So he's been there since the stud started. We've stuck to the same regime all the way through. John Gosden is obviously extremely important. Charlie Gordon-Watson has been involved from the very beginning. In Ireland at Kiltynan, the farm in Kiltynan, Donna Vowles, who manages over there. She's been in our kind of team for the last 20 years. So I think people is really, really important. And we're extremely fortunate that the land that we're on is obviously very good.
Yeah.
And we've been lucky to buy into these extraordinary bloodlines.
And I didn't quite grasp until we spoke earlier that Watership Down was built from nothing really. There was no farm, no stud farm breeding racehorses there before the Lloyd Webbers were there and established the stud.
No, so when Andrew has lived at Symington for 40 odd years, and when he married Madeline, they decided to start a stud farm. But at that point it was just sheep, it was parkland, and so yeah, it started from nothing, and we had to think of a name, and we had to think of colours, and it's just grown from that. It's an extraordinary story.
And only in the space of around 30 years.
In 30 years, it's quite a long time, but yeah, I mean, hopefully there's plenty more to come.
The next question is very good. What are your main criteria for a successful broodmare when you go out to the market or when you look through the catalogue and you want to add a mare to the Watership Down stud broodmare band? What are you looking for? What do you need to be ticked off?
I think the most important thing is confirmation. I think they've got to be correct.
Yeah.
And then race record is extremely important. Pedigree, obviously. And if they're in foal, who they're in foal to. Yeah, there are lots of bits of the jigsaw to put together. And each one of them can knock a mare out. Yeah. But I think, you know, when we go around looking at them at the December sales, confirmation is the first thing. Once you've found the mares that are correct, then you can layer on all the other parts of it.
That's the base you need to have, because
you need that.
Because the principle of black cats get black kittens. You think that that's
everything about it. You know, everything's against you from the very beginning. So all you can do is move the odds a little bit more in your favour. And the only way you can do that is by trying to, you know, obviously if you buy a crooked mare, you're more likely to produce crooked foals. So now there are plenty of crooked mares that produce beautiful foals. But if you don't know that when you go and buy the mare, you're better off buying a correct mare at the beginning.
And the third and final question is quite interesting. I think especially applied to Durara and Daremi. Someone asks, how do you balance speed and stamina in the pedigrees of the foals that you're trying to breed? Because we've said there earlier that Durara and Daremi, I think it's fair to say, are generally middle distance families. So I suppose, how do you ensure, you've now got several generations of that family, how do you ensure it doesn't go from stamina to slowness, I suppose? Well,
I think there's such a thing in the business now about speed, and we would not. I mean, it's great to have a very fast horse, but I think that, to me, from a mile up is where the game is, and that's where all the best races are. I mean, if you've got a mile and a 10 furlong horse or a 12 furlong horse, I mean, you can go everywhere. You can go, if you've got a really good one, you can go to the Breeders' Cup, you can go to Dubai, you can go to Hong Kong, you can go to Australia, you can go everywhere. And the second-hand value of them is extraordinary because people want our blood. So I think speed is important, but I mean, a stallion like Dubai, for instance, who is a miler, he can get speed, but he can also get stamina.
Yeah.
And I think that if you start breeding our mares, for instance, to sprinters, I think you're going to end up in kind of no man's land.
Yeah,
so I prefer to breed them. You know, we bred the entire family last year to Frankel.
Yeah.
But the Frankel Dubai cross is quite exceptional. So, hopefully that'll prove to work.
So is it fair to say then that if you want to sharpen up a mating, you're not going to use one of those real sort of commercial raw speed stallions? You're going to use something like Dubai, or I think it was Oasis Dream that Daramy went to first of all, and he's another. Yeah, I mean, he was a champion sprinter, but he's from that very classical Juddmonte family.
He was, but he's interesting, Oasis Dream, because he had Midday, who won the Oaks.
Yeah.
And everybody suddenly thought they could stay in Maelstrom. And I don't think it kind of helped the stallion, actually.
No.
Because I think Oasis Dream was an absolutely fantastic stallion. But he needed to be bred to speed, ultimately. But no, I think that if you've got a 1.25 mile mare, breed her to a miler, breed her to, Night Thunder or to New Bay or, Loeb de Vega and those types of horses. But I wouldn't be breeding her to the sprinters. You breed sprinters to sprinters.
Yeah. And should say there, actually, that the result of that Oasis Dream Daramy mating was de Treville, who from very, very humble beginnings as a stallion in France has done really, really well, which sort of is a nice compliment to Durara and Daramy, really, isn't it? That family,
I mean,
quality coming through.
It is extraordinary, and the owner of de Treville has supported him nearly entirely, and he's had, I don't know, low 20s of foals in his first 4 crops or 5 crops. But he had a third in a Group 3 at the weekend, and he's definitely outperforming his stud fee. I think his stud fee's been €3,000 or something. So, if he can do it, it's a great indicator of what might happen with Too Darn Hot.
Exactly, yeah. It's tempting to say if he can do that from those beginnings, then Too Darn Hot should be up there. But we'll find out.
We'll find out. But he ticks every box, and that's what is so exciting about him.
Exactly. Well, I think that covers all the questions for this first Good Morning Bloodstock Live. Thank you very much for being the guinea pig and our first guest. We covered lots of ground there. And I suppose we really wish you all the best for all the Too Darn Hot progeny and Emily Upjohn and all the matings and the foals. And thank you very much.
Well, we'll see what happens, and hopefully we're lucky.
Perfect.